Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He's one of the author of the book Channeled Message of Hope. No other than Mr. John Thomas.
Thank you, Daniel. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes. Welcome to Book 101, Mr. John. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
Well, let me give the listeners a brief overview. I'm John Thomas. My wife, Carolyn Thomas, is the principal author of Channeled Messages of Hope. And Sam Larkin is a channeler, what we call a voice channeler. She effectively helped us connect to the souls so that we could have dialogue and conversation with the souls through Sam, who was, you can think of her as the internet of channeling in a sense. She connects two different sides. People like Carolyn and myself can converse directly with the souls we connected to, which is, I think, a unique aspect of this particular book.
Mr. John Thomas, thank you so much for sharing your empowering and channeled messages of hope to the world, and hoping for more and more empowering books like this to come. What inspired you to bridge channeled wisdom from historical figures with the urgent, tangible crisis of climate change?
Well, Daniel, let me give you a brief background of how this all happened, if I can. I think it'll set the context for the listeners. But uh, my wife, Carolyn, was friends with Sam Larkin for a long time before this book idea ever came up. And Sam Larkin is not a professional channeler. She doesn't do sessions, but she knew from an early age that she had an ability to sense, uh, she could connect, especially with animals. And she found this from an early age, and she was able to detect when animals were scared before anyone knew it. She was very good, and she would help people with that. So my wife got to know her because we were having some trouble with two cats in our household that weren't really, getting along. We were having trouble. So Sam and Carolyn kind of worked together on that. And then there came a point, this was several years of this kind of thing, when Sam called Carolyn and said, I don't know where these messages are coming from. They're very high vibration messages, but they're meant for you. And I don't know, where they're coming from, but I want to talk to you about that. So Sam and Carolyn got together, and Sam kind of invoked the messenger of these high vibration messages from the other side. And it turned out that it was what we will call, we've found out a lot about what happens on the other side here. So I'm not claiming to be an expert on this, but we've learned a lot in the book. So what the messenger that was sending this is what we might call an ascended master. And we'll just call him Baba for the moment. And Baba was coming through to Carolyn. And then when Carolyn found that they could have a conversation like this, and let me just say that when Sam does the channeling, it's what we call voice channeling. And the normal type of channeling is where someone will talk to the channeler will take the question, try to connect to the soul, ask the question, then relay the information back. But what happens with Sam, what's very unique with Sam, is that she can invoke a soul. And when the soul comes in, it basically takes over Sam's persona, even her vocal cords. And Sam does not really recall anything after these sessions, because once she goes into this, it's a voice channeling. I'm not going to say it's trance necessarily, but when in that mode, there can be direct conversation with the soul. It's not like we have to ask Sam, then Sam asks a question. Direct conversation. It's remarkable. So after Sam and Carolyn found that they could do this, then they started talking to other souls. This is before the book, people like David Bowie and other people, and it really was remarkable. So one day, and the story's almost done here, but Carolyn was in the shower, as you can see in the introduction of the book, and she had this idea that, wow, if we connect to souls in this way through Sam, we might be able to connect to souls that have inspirational messages for humanity. And right now, the she wasn't sure of the exact idea, but she had the environment in mind because, environmentally, we have a lot of things going on here. People are very worried about the environment right now, the ones that are very concerned. What are we leaving to our children, et cetera, et cetera. So Carolyn was very excited about this. So she went back to Sam. Sam connected with this entity, Baba, and Baba said, that's not really your idea. It's your inspiration, but it's actually our idea. And there's a group on the other side, we'll call it the council, that are ascended masters. We believe people like St. Francis would be on that council. And they said, we're very concerned. We know that the earth is in an upset condition right now. So this idea of channel messages of hope around the environment is actually our idea. It's the council's idea. And Carolyn, we've really selected you to be the messenger of this. And that really is the inspiration of what went into it. And then the rest of the question, I'll stop here, Daniel, but it's like, well, what souls? Why did you talk to them? There's a whole backstory on that too.
Indeed. How did you choose which prominent souls to channel? And why are their perspectives uniquely suited to address these issues?
Yeah, that's really a very interesting point. So Carolyn made an initial list and she had a few people on that list. And the way that we would do this is Carolyn is a researcher. She's not a channeler. She's very, spiritually inclined, and she has some skills like this on her own. But what she would do is when there was a prominent soul to be interviewed, she would do intense research, usually for a month or more, reading many books, formulating the questions, the framework of the whole thing. And then we would tell Sam only maybe the day before, we want to connect with this soul. Sam wasn't involved in all of that. All she knew was that was the soul we need to connect to. We would do the interview with that soul. Sam wouldn't even recall it. But back to why did we select a few? So there were some pretty, at the early stage, let's say Nikola Tesla. He's a pretty obvious one. He was a real inventor. Albert Einstein, a real inventor. So it's like, okay, so there's probably many things going on around clean energy, maybe that will develop in the future. There were some policymakers like Theodore Roosevelt. So there was a small list. But what happened, Daniel, is that as she started in, and she didn't have the whole list of 19 at the beginning, we learned that we would ask the souls kind of near the end of the interview, who else should we talk to on this topic? So here's an example. Albert Einstein said, I want you to talk to Mileva Einstein, which we didn't know who Mileva Einstein was. I mean, it was his wife when he was in a body on Earth. And there were specific reasons he wanted us to talk to her, because a lesson he's learning, or let's say that he realized on the other side, is that Mileva was very instrumental in Albert's early research. His early research is leading to what we call fusion, nuclear fusion, which is extremely clean energy that's in development right now. But she didn't get credit for that because at the time, women were not really included in this type of acknowledgement. One other example for you is Nikola Tesla asked us to speak with Samuel Clemens. Samuel Clemens, aka Mark Twain. That really made us wonder what's going on there. Well, it turned out that Samuel Clemens was a very prolific investor in his days as an author. He made a lot of money. He invested in technology. He even had some of his own inventions. He got to know Nikola Tesla very well, actually. And Samuel Clemens is a chapter in the book that I think is very fascinating. And, there's other examples like Theodore Roosevelt, who was really responsible for our national park system in the early days. He was inspired by John Muir. We talked to John Muir. He said, I want you to talk to Theodore. We talked to Theodore. He said, I want you to talk to John Muir. And there's other examples like that. But really, we kind of got led down the track. My final comment on this, to kind of put the context, is when you look at the souls that were interviewed for this book, it's not just conservationists or people like that. The way it ended up playing out is we have policymakers. People would say it's politicians, but this is not a political book. It's about people that had a lot of influence environmentally when they were in their political stage. Even Richard Nixon, believe it or not, was a very strong environmentalist in his practice, even though we only remember Watergate at this point. Then we talk about conservationists like John Muir. We talk about technologists like Albert Einstein. We talk about spiritual leaders, Wayne Dyer, St. Francis, Gandhi. So it turns out that the way it played out is we got these perspectives from all these different groups around this topic of where is our Earth going environmentally. And it turned out to be a fascinating set of perspectives across that spectrum.
Mr. John, did the channeled souls share a unifying message or surprising consensus about humanity's role in climate change?
Yeah, that's the thing that really struck me going into this. The unifying message that is the most impactful to me is what came from St. Francis. St. Francis made the point that we are all one, we are all connected. So sometimes, Wayne Dyer would say the reason that we're having a lot of environmental issues right now, there's many reasons and there's technical reasons, but spiritual reason is the earth is upset. Man is not treating each other well. We're not necessarily treating the earth well, and the earth has a soul. And so, it's reacting. What St. Francis taught us is that we are one. It's not man up here and everything else, nature and animals. We're all one and we're all connected. People, animals, nature, plants. The ocean has a soul. The earth has a soul. And if people could understand, if everyone had an idea that we are all one and we're all connected, we would probably treat each other differently. And by treating each other, I mean in the earth as well. So that was, at a spiritual level, that was a very impactful message. Let me give you one more. John Muir, who loved Yosemite, worked with Theodore Roosevelt on national parks. He started the Sierra Club. John Muir said, if we would treat this earth with the same respect that we treat a church, that would be the right, point of view. It would probably change maybe the framing of how we approach it. So there was many messages like this in the book that end up being inspirational for people that are very concerned with the environment, but also want to know what the souls on the other side, how they are trying to impact what's going on. And they are doing work on that.
Mr. John, how do you ensure the integrity of channeled messages and what safeguards exist against projection and bias?
Yeah, that's a good question. So first of all, we are not here to convince anyone the channeling is real. I mean, look, the demographic for this book, the people that will appreciate and need these messages are spiritually open, spiritually curious, and concerned about the environment and where it's going. So if the first thought is, well, I don't know if this channeling is real, I can tell you this. The amount of specific information that came through, the amount of corroborating information that came through and was remarkable to me. I mean, let me give you an example. John Muir, we started talking to souls about what they're doing on the other side, how they're trying to influence, but then we started learning to talk to souls about, have they been in other lifetimes? Do they have more lifetimes on earth to go? We came to the conclusion that there's an incarnation sequence where, when someone dies, when they transition, they'll go to the other side, there'll be a life review. And if there's lessons they need to work on, they come back and work on those. So, we found out that, John Muir, for example, we said, well, John Muir, have you had lifetimes on earth? He told us, I'm in a lifetime on earth right now, because what we're doing is we're talking to that particular lifetime of interest, but there's a soul that connects all of that. So all the lifetimes are part of the soul that is, part of that that entity. And he said, I'm actually a snowboarder in Canada next to something called I forget the name of it right now. Pyoto Lake. I'm sorry, I'm not recalling that right off the moment, in Alberta. And we're like, what? We never heard of this. So we go online, we look, there it is. There's the lake, looks exactly as he described it. And we had other instances like that of very specific information that there's just, in my mind, there's just no way it could come through otherwise. So, but again, we're not here to convince. but I'll tell you what, if you read this book, and we have an audio book too, where you can actually listen to the soul interviews that come through Sam. And Daniel, let me just mention this last thing. This is kind of fascinating. When the soul comes in and takes over Sam's persona, it actually will take over her vocal cords too. And this was the thing that really was amazing. For example, John Muir, all of a sudden there's Sam with a Scottish accent. Like, what's going on? What? Sam is actually here in California. She's, if you think I have an accent, it's exactly like Sam's, we're West Coast. Then we were talking, Nikola Tesla. He came through sounding very Eastern European, Serbian, things like that. And that's the thing that St. Francis came through with, a very kind of a mild, a little bit, maybe of an Italian accent. And this is coming out of Sam. Sam could not recall anything in these sessions afterward, but everything is recorded. And in fact, our audiobook has the exact recordings. You will hear directly from the souls in the audiobook. The interviews that you can read in the written book are available to listen to in the audiobook.
Indeed, Mr. John channeled messages of hope. How has engaging with these souls reshape your own relationship with environmental activism?
Well, I'll tell you that the high level view, the spiritual view of why is the earth reacting this way, and the fact from St. Francis and Wayne Dyer and others that we are all one, that's reframing of where man sits within this thing. That was a very big message for me. And, I really appreciate that the souls came through with that. But, there's some other things too. It's like Jacques Cousteau, who, he was a famous oceanographer and everything. And so he started seeing, the whole environmental thing is a complex relationship on everything on Earth. Man, what's going on in the air, things like that. So people might just jump to a conclusion, oh, global warming is a problem. But, on the technical side of this, I started to realize that one of the problems that our Earth has is that we have thrown too much change too fast at the environment for Earth to really react. So you might hear, Daniel's, people say, well, the global warming, it's just the weather. You might say, in a sense, it is, because our atmosphere holds certain greenhouse gases. We can't have zero greenhouse gases, or it would be like space here. It would be very cold. We need to trap some heat in our atmosphere. But our problem is we've generated so much greenhouse gas in such a short time. And this is the real key. Our Earth will go from a greenhouse state to an icehouse state on maybe a 10,000 year cycle. This is verifiable by taking samples, core samples out of the ice cap and things like this. This was, Stephen Schneider and others talked to us about that. But we have, in the last 150 years, imagine a 10,000 year cycle. Now, 150 years of the industrial age has been when the greenhouse gas situation has ramped dramatically. And Dr. Charles Keeling, interviewed in the book, was the first one to detect this change of greenhouse gas in the atmosphere. It was dramatic. And this is leading to, what is the global warming situation? Why is global warming a challenge or a problem? Here's the problem. For our Earth to maintain balance, we're hot during the day, and then at night, things like the ice caps, the oceans, they absorb that heat. And then we can come back and we can stay in balance as a cycle. But when we overload the atmosphere, and by putting a lot more, let's say, greenhouse gas into the oceans, which makes them more acidic, it combines with we're trapping more heat, and we're reducing our ability to distribute that heat, which means that things start to rise over time. And so it upsets the balance. So my message to those that will say, well, it's just the weather, is that we've thrown our Earth such a hard, out of balance situation in such a short time that the Earth is reacting. So what do we see? We see things like droughts out here in the West where I live, a lot of forest fires, much more than ever. We see, flooding in other parts of the country. It just represents an out of balance situation. And we've given our Earth, a very hard situation to react to, and our Earth is reacting in the way that it can. And so there's some extremes that we're starting to see, and it is real. It's not just the weather, and that's how I would explain the whole situation, and what the souls taught us on that.
Indeed, Mr. John, and because I have also a book about climate change, I want just to plug in people. Please do grab a
Please.
copy of my climate change book available on Audible, Earth Fever, the Unraveling Climate and Our Race to Restore Balance. Yes,
Ah,
indeed, we need to restore the balance because our Mother Earth, it's not in it was used to be. It's something else now. It's changing. So, Mr. John, what will be your short-term and long-term goals as an author?
our short and long term goals related to the book.
Yes, as
Yeah.
aside from being an author, what will be your
Oh,
aside from the book?
well, let me say that, when Carolyn got the inspiration from the council to do this project, and then it evolved, our goal, Daniel, is this. Look, if you're spiritually open, spiritually curious, because we have a lot of things in there about what is transition like? What happens when you go to the other side? How are the souls trying to influence people that are here on earth in a body? What happens on the other side? There's a lot of interesting spiritual information like that. It's not just all about the environment, it's about the whole communication thing. So our goal with this, it's for people that are concerned about the environment, and will be open to the spiritual solutions and what the souls have to say. These messages are for those people. If I could do anything, I would simply want these people that are in that kind of you know class, let me say, to know this book is there, and this book can really help them, maybe to better understand or have some hope on where things are going. Because if you look around, you could say, everything seems to be going badly, or there's a lot of problems. Where is it all going? People worry about, what am I leaving to my children?
Yes.
What, and so I'll tell you one. So we want to make sure that this book is available for those people that need it. That's really our real goal in mind. It's not that was the inspiration that Carolyn had when she started it, and that was the inspiration that led to publishing the book. But I can tell you something, Dan. In our working with the souls and understanding what goes on the other side, and understanding that when we are here in our lifetime in a body, and I believe this, and it was explained to us, we're here in our lifetime to have certain experiences, to maybe learn certain lessons and see if you can make progress. When you look at somebody like St. Francis, or let me say Samuel Clemens, we asked him directly. He said, "I have no more lifetimes in a body. I'm, I'm graduated," was the way he put it. Anyway, he'll stay on the other side. But knowing my own lifetime and going, now I can see certain lessons in my life. Maybe I was put here to have that experience. Maybe I can work on those, because I will probably have to come back to work on some other things. Then I started thinking, instead of the attitude of, oh, what are we leaving to our children? I started thinking, Daniel, of what am I leaving if I come back here? That was some real kind of a, I guess you might say, incentive I hadn't really thought through before. So for people that are worried about the environment, I can tell you a lot of the technologists have a lot of the kind of work that is going on right now. The spiritual side can explain what's going on and what we can do about it spiritually. There's a lot of very specific things from the policymakers on, how they would attack the problem. But our goal is simply to get the messages out there for people that need them and could benefit from them, need some hope about where our earth is going. And my last point on this is that what we did learn is that the younger generation is really understanding what's going on. And many of the innovations that are, this is like maybe a generation before me, maybe even two, like in the years on earth thing. But the younger generation, I'm a Silicon Valley tech guy. So the younger generation, though, there's many, many things on the clean energy side, including what I mentioned earlier, nuclear fusion, which is 100% clean nuclear, which is in big development right now, would solve many, many of our problems. So there is hope because things are being worked on. But what we can do right now is simply respect this earth more. If don't I mean, this is simple things. But let me mention this last example. You might recall during the pandemic what happened in China over Beijing and Shanghai, which have notoriously bad air, smog levels extremely high. In the pandemic, when all of a sudden things shut down and the cars were not on the road, the air cleaned up very quickly. What this tells us is that the earth can react quickly when given a chance. So it kind of tells me that very simple things can really make a difference. I mean, if everyone on this earth said, for the next 30 days, I will not litter anything. And if I see something on the ground, I will pick it up and throw it away. If everybody on this earth did that for 30 days, I'm pretty convinced that we would probably start to see some sort of change. You're environmentally aware. I don't know if you would agree with that analogy, but these are the things I was thinking when we went through the whole process with the souls.
Indeed, Mr. John, totally agree with you. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, book 101 review in fifth season, two comedy 101 in second season, and food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 and love letters in third season, and my baby podcast Mental Health 101, Movie 101 Review and Music 101 in its third season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. Mr. Jan, what readers or what do you hope readers take away emotionally, spiritually, or practically after engaging these messages?
I think there's several things. First of all, environmentally, there's many good things going on. The souls on the other side are very aware of this. That's why they led Carolyn to actually create this book. They're aware that there is, that the earth is in distress right now. And the souls are working with many people in a body. Albert Einstein works with other scientists in terms of being a guide by trying to give them some inspiration and things like that on earth to lead them in the direction. We hope that people will walk away and say, okay, we understand what's going on. We know that there is hope in the future. It's not complete despair, but even us as single individuals, we can do our part. We can do our part by simply understanding that we are one, by having the common respect, treating earth like a church, as John Muir would say, and that, we can actually have some hope, channel messages of hope. And by the way, the website is www.channelmessagesofhope.com. You can actually hear excerpts from the souls. There's recorded excerpts on the website, so you can hear kind of parts of the interviews. And then if you choose to, want the audio book, we have the full interviews with the souls in the book. And I just want to get the message to people that could use it, need some inspiration right now, and need some reassurance.
Mr. John Thomas, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your book itself?
Yeah, so it's on Amazon, it's on Audible, but again, our website, channeled messages of hope, all one word.com. You can be led. You can find the audio book. You can find the written book, excerpts from the souls, introduction from the authors, and that's the way to kind of get a hold of this. And you can decide if it helps out, and if those messages can work for you. We'd be very pleased to be able to help.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. John Thomas, because if you support him, more and more and more empowering books like this to come. So, Mr. John, thank you so much for your time.
I really appreciate it, Daniel. Thank you.
More to come, people. See you soon.